You're watching Sitka Community TV. Be sure to like and subscribe if you like what you see.
Alright, so this is about the Tlingit code talkers. Everybody knows about the Navajo code talkers. They're the most famous of the code talkers. They were the first to be declassified. Unfortunately, during that time period, there were 27 other tribes that were not recognized during that time period. Can you imagine what it felt like being somebody that served in the armed forces as a code talker, yet had to keep quiet because only the Navajo were recognized at that time? So a lot of this information here is couldn't have been done with a lot of people. I'm talking with the late Chuck Miller when we talked about this. We have a code talker here. We originally had 5 code talkers, and we had the brothers Mark and Harvey Jacobs. They were in Navy. They were at Iwo Jima. And then we had David and Dean that were in the Philippines. And then we had George Lewis up in the Aleutians. Who's he talking to? Well, Rachel Roy came up and said my grandfather was a code talker, and after 18 months of digging through stuff and videos and all, the Department of the Army finally approved it. And it was Chuck's letter that really drove it home. Elders from type 2 languages that are not written or in the process of being written, the elders that maintain the stories and the histories and all, their word is uncontested. And that was from President Biden in 2022 in December, put that on writing. And so with that, in Chuck's letter, we were able to do it. And during his letter, he called them, if you'd like to start.
I think you use the arrow.
There we go. Ekaga. Ekaga means warrior. And that's how he described Louis Menard in his letter to the Department of the Army. Just the agenda, what we're going to go over. We'll just quickly go through that because we have limited time. So code talkers actually started in World War I as phone talkers. So phone talkers were from the Kutcha tribe, started off with 19 individuals. They were recognized because they were talking back and forth in their own native language, and an officer recognized that the Germans were intercepting these codes that they were given, but they utilized the native language to prevent this breaking of codes and all, and it was very successful. So the original 19 were called phone talkers, and they were from the 144th Infantry Regiment. Their contribution served as a crucial reminder of the role that indigenous people played in the military, history, and a broader narrative of the American identity. In World War II, they were renamed, classified as code talkers. It was actually a school created for Marines and Naval, and that is considered a Type 1 code talker. We'll get to that a little bit more later on. But that's how our code talkers came. It's the only unbroken code in history. Navajo code talkers, during that time period, they have, this is really small. There was 400 messages, not messages, 4,000, hang on. During the first 2 days of the battle, there was over 800 messages, just Navajo messages, going back and forth in the battle of Iwo Jima. At that time, that's the only thing that was declassified at that time. Before Navajo code talkers, or any of the code talkers, war brings secrets. So the secrets, you would have a dial or a machine and all that was there designed to crack the code. It would take anywhere from weeks to months to do that, or sometimes even almost a year. Very time consuming, machines are very bulky, and it took a long time to get the messages back and forth, and only people who knew what the messages were after they were broken. And everybody knows the Enigma machine that's actually sped things up, and until we actually captured one, then we were able to break those as well. So the timeline of the code talkers, you got the Kutchas in 1918. In 1940, recruiting started with the United States Military Marine Corps. This is the Type 1 code talkers. Then 68, you had your Navajo declassification. In 82, the Navajo and the Native American code talkers were recognized by President Ronald Reagan. And in his speech, it was in other tribes, so they were not still officially recognized to come forward. In 2001, the Navajo Code Talkers were honored with the Gold Congressional Medal by President Bush. Each individual of the original Navajo Code Talkers were issued a Gold Congressional Medal. Going forward, only the tribes are issued a Gold Congressional Medal, and the individuals get the rare Silver Medal, or to the family member. 2008, the rest of the tribes were finally approved for congressional medals and thus began the design process. 2013, the Tlingit Code Talkers were officially recognized at a ceremony held at the U.S. Capitol. 2017, Navajo recognized at the White House event. In 2001, October, ANBANS resolution for the 5 Tlingit Code Talkers here. And 2023, 3 new tribes were recognized for Code Talkers with congressional medals, which are currently being designed. And as of 2023, Lewis and Menard has been officially recognized by the Department of the Army as an official Code Talker. So here's the brothers, Mark and Harvey Jacobs. They served together in the United States Navy during Iwo Jima. If you all know Spike, Spike's got some stories he can tell you. The brothers are actually probably the most famous in this area for us because the brothers poster that you see in the bottom there actually became a poster for the armed services. Then we had Richard Bean and Jeff Davids. They were both in the Philippines together. They were recognized by a lieutenant, hearing them talking back and forth. So the lieutenant said, "How would you like to handle code for us?" and all, and they spoke it straight away. And then, as I said, we had George Lunas up in the Aleutians, but we didn't know who he was talking to. So finally, after a lot of work and all, I'm proud to say that Louis Menard is a Tlingit Code Talker, officially recognized, and it will be on his stone at the National Cemetery. And he was also in the United States Army. How to secure your Code Talker. You can see all the documentation, blue screens. This here is actually a call with the staff of Capitol and the Pentagon, going through all the tactical work, trying to find and prove this individual was deserving of a congressional medal. And then finally, after 18 months, on behalf of the United States Army, they said, yes, he's officially a Code Talker. Unfortunately, that is not an Army award. It's a classification, but not an award. But I am proud to say he has now been officially recognized, and the medal is being produced as we speak. And hopefully here, March 20th is a soft date. We will actually have the presentation to the family. And this letter here is from the Defense Pentagon going to Madam Secretary of the Treasury, telling her to strike the silver medal. So the significance during World War II of Code Talkers overall. You have unique contributions, cultural significance, and strategic importance. In the examination of the contribution to Tlingit tribes alongside with the other indigenous tribes like the Navajo, we gained a greater appreciation for the diverse linguist strategies developed in military communications. Each group brought forth unique cultural nuances that shaped their code development, revealing both similarities and differences in their approach. In hindsight, invaluable contributions of the Native American language overall to the war effort, emphasizing strategic advantages inherent to their use. And I want to remind you, at this time period, the United States government was telling them not to use their language. They had the boarding schools, they were beaten, punished for using the language and trying to speak to each other, and then the military recognized that this is the one strength that they had. And so to come full circle and bring that culture back and be able to utilize something like that, they were through and through Americans. They fought the battle and used what they were told not to use. And I don't know what going above and beyond means, but to me that clarifies it right there and then. The Tlingit culture, indigenous language, has a rich cultural heritage to that. The Tlingit are known for their elaborate oral traditions, complex social structures, and deep connections to the environment, of all which shape their unique identity. The indigenous language, the Tlingit language, part of the Nade family, is characterized by its complexity, relevance, and cultural practices, which further enable code development during the war. And in pre-war context, the Tlingit people face cultural shifts, pressures from colonization, yet they maintain a resilient identity that proved crucial during the conflicts. And the legacy of the Tlingit Code Talkers reached beyond the wartime contributions, playing a crucial role in the revival of the Tlingit language and their culture. Understanding their narrative foster cultural pride and reinforce forces, the community identity, and contemporary challenges. As Tlingit speakers actively engage in the language preservation efforts, they instill the collective memory that honors their ancestors' sacrifices, ensuring that their heritage remains vibrant and relevant for future generations. In World War II, you had your global conflict dynamics, and then the military, Native Americans' military role. There was over 44,000 Native Americans served in various capacities during World War II, showcasing their commitment and pivotal roles in military effectiveness. And the initiative, innovative military strategies, the war prompted creative military tactics, including use of the Navajo language, native language, for communications evolving the landscape in modern warfare. So during a time where they were going through this, they had to maintain a military dignity. They had to maintain the cultural dignity without conflicting it or sacrificing it, because they stayed true to their heritage. Yet overall, they were the secret piece that kept everything together. Recruitment selection. The recruitment of Tlingit code talkers involved identifying fluent speakers who can articulate military concepts in their indigenous language, ensuring the clear and effective communication. This is considered a Type 2 code talker. Military contributions. The Tlingit talker contributed to numerous operations, demonstrating their indispensable role in maintaining communication lines during critical missions. And the Tlingit language intricate structure and uniqueness provided an effective safeguard against enemies' interpretation, showcasing indigenous knowledge as a military asset. 2 years ago, the American Legion rented out the theater and invited everybody down to see Code Talkers, a World War II documentary. And it was all based on the Navajo, and then the one Navajo code talker was talking about a gentleman that had gotten captured. He was a code talker, and the enemy tried having him break the code. And he was a Type 1 code talker. So Type 1 talkers, they had only key words. So when those words were repeated, since he didn't know what they meant, he says, it sounds like they're having eggs and bacon because they're talking about chickens and eggs. That was a Type 1. Type 1 is kind of similar to, you know what the words are in your Rolodex, and you tell somebody else that, and they know how to decipher it and knows what those words mean. So that complete disconnection of between the Navajo code talkers and the military officers that were doing that. If one was captured, there was no code. Type 2 is, I told the individual, hey, we have 2 submarines out in the harbor, and in his language, or her, they would transverse that 2 in real time, so they actually had not 30 minutes to decipher, it was instantaneously. Hey, they're saying you got this, but they're using their own unique language, saying whatever the words were that they used to kind of describe a submarine or something like that. So the creation of code, which we were just talking about, so like Navajo code names of planes, so like for a plane was Wutadi Nahe, dive bomber was Gine, which meant the chicken hawk for them. Navajo ship names, submarine was Beshlo, which meant iron fish. And these were the ones that they had gone to school for. So they're talking about these keywords in Navajo were sent over, and the officers taking those code back would understand what those words were because they'd have to translate it. So Type 1 codes are formally developed based on the language of the Comanche, Hopi, Makowski, and Navajo peoples. They use words from the language for each letter of the English alphabet, kind of like a phonetic alphabet in the military, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Deco, up, kind of like that. Messages could be encoded and decoded using the simple substitution cipher, where the ciphertext was a Navajo language word. The code efficiency depended on the strict adherence to secrecy, requiring the code talkers to maintain confidentiality on pain of severe consequences. And this is the big thing, that when I was trying to prove Louis Menard was a code talker, they kept coming back saying it's not on his DD-214. United States Navy and the United States Marine Corps, their DD-214s do say code talkers. Anybody else's doesn't. So that was one fight that kept coming back at me. Then I challenged them. I said, I'd like you to produce these gentlemen's DD-214s because they all burnt down back in the 50s, 60s. And you don't have them. I actually have the ones from the family members. Prove to me you got something different. It doesn't say code talker. Richard Bean, the ones that had already officially recognized, that they said non-combat, but yet they received all the combat awards for it. Or Richard Bean's the only one that actually had a job, which was quartermaster. The rest of them just said here or there. They didn't have where they were stationed at. It was very bland of what they had. So a Type 2 code talker, the unique structure of the Tlingit language presented difficulties as certain military concepts lacked direct language translations necessitating innovative language adaptations. Excuse me, I can't talk straight today. Type 2 was informal and directly translated from English to an indigenous language. Code talkers used short, descriptive phrases if there was no corresponding word in the indigenous language for the military word. For example, the Tlingit did not have a word for submarine, so they translated it to iron fish. Yes, hot. And I don't think I'm saying that right. So I do apologize. I was prepared the big one, so it's been a while since I've done this one. All right, so key battle involvement that deals with our Tlingit code talkers. The Battle of Iwo Jima, the Jacob brothers were there. During that battle, the one ship that Harvey was on, sank, was bombed. And his brother thought his brother was on it until a couple days later when he found out he was transferred off it the day before. In the Aleutians was Louis Menard and George Lewis. And in the Philippines was Richard Bean and Davies. That's our Southeast code talkers currently. You all heard of the sink ships, loose lip sink ships. It was key to keep communication quiet and secretive, and these gentlemen took that to the grave. Only on their deathbeds and all did they share their stories, because they didn't want these stories forgotten, and that's what we're fighting today. Alaska's a big state. We had territorial guard. We had a lot of people serving the military. I can almost guarantee you we have a lot more code talkers that we don't know about. Yupik culture, even higher than that, up into Barrow. There's got to be history, and we owe it to them to find it and get it out there before we lose it. Because right now, these gentlemen kept their word, they kept their secrets, but they realized how important it was, so they passed it on before they passed. So the deployment of key battles and communication. The USS Morrison and the USS New Mexico were the two ships that the brothers were on. The New Mexico is one that was hit by the kamikaze. Success stories. Instantaneous were a time of relaxed code by code talkers led to timely military decision showcase their effectiveness in the field. In that 48-hour period, if you put all the code talkers together, it's 2,400 code talker message that were passed successfully without error or compromise. Not just the 800 that the Navajo recorded. So, the code talkers face a challenge, not just the Tlingits, but all the tribes. And they're navigating the complex dynamics of military life, often conflicted with their traditions and cultural values, and creating internal and external challenges. Discrimination experiences. Despite their contributions, the code talkers face racial discrimination within military ranks, impacting their service and experience. And personal sacrifices. Many code talkers made significant personal sacrifices for their country while simultaneously defending their cultural identity and heritage. Post-war recognition, which is where we're at now with the Louis Menard's medallion that we're trying to get finally. For decades, the contribution of code talkers, the Tlingit code talkers, remain largely unrecognized until recent efforts have begun to honor their legacy. The long-term contributions, their unique service highlighted the importance of indigenous language, leading to the educational initiatives that commemorated a role in the war. And the educational initiatives preserving Tlingit language and their history have emerged, fostering awareness and respect for the indigenous contributions to the American history. You can now go to the college and take Tlingit classes. They're teaching carving, drawing, so the culture is not lost. And this is very important that this succeeds, because we don't want to have another Rosetta Stone years and years and years and years from now where we forgot what the language was. So as I said, besides the Navajo, there was 33 known tribes, and I'm just going to let these come up there. I'm not going to bother speaking. But the 33 tribes after the Navajo was came forward, and then they reintroduced that there was traditionally a total of 33 tribes. They went into designing congressional metal coins that were specifically for each nation. They went to their elders and leaders and had them design them. And so finally they gave their congressional medals out. And of course there's the Tlingit tribe. But as of 2023, there was 3 more tribes recognized. So as you can see, this is an ongoing process. And I said, you know, there's got to be more here in Alaska. I actually heard, I'm making communications with people in Hoona, what supposedly is a couple in Hoona that were not recognized, and if we can find the paperwork and stuff that we need, we will go down that path and try to get that secured as well. So, a lot of this stuff here, if you go to the American Legion in the front door, you'll see it. We have it on display, the radios, the sea rations, and stuff like that. We are building a nice memorial to it that will be more effective. We worked with Sea Alaska Heritage as well. We have their boards there. The Navajo Code use their language to develop a complex code, operated similarly to the Tlingit code talkers, each contributing uniquely to military communications. Various indigenous languages played significant roles in World War II, each offering distinct linguistic advantages that enhanced the military strategies. And the strategic similarities of division were the parallels in deployment of codes, and specific language and cultural context created unique approaches to the methodologies. So, cultural significance through the community. The revival and identity through language. Indigenous language revivability strategies at Sea Alaska Heritage efforts to reclaim and revive the Tlingit language have gained momentum in recent years, spurred by a resurgence of cultural pride and historical recognition. And then cultural pride and identity. The legacy of the Code Talkers has fostered a sense of pride among the Tlingit people and reinforced the cultural identity in the face of modern changes. And the one thing, I can barely read this here, but this is Chester. He's a Navajo Code Talker, and he said, "My wartime experience is developing a code that utilized the Navajo language taught how important our Navajo culture is to our country. For me, that is the central lesson, that diverse cultures can make a country richer and stronger." I don't think there's any truer words than that. That sums it all up in one shot. So honoring the Code Talkers here at memorials and dedicated spaces, as I said, we had Senator Murkowski come out when she recognized the brothers. At A&B Hall, we decided to have a celebration. We brought the drummers, the dancers, and the whole day was celebration. We brought a producer in who is currently making a film called I think it's Secret of the Code Talkers, which is based on 2 Navajo men from their youth all the way to past the war and how they dealt with it. There's actually Cody Daesh, who you see in this picture up here. There's also books. First Code Talkers, which were the telephone talkers we were talking about. There's actually a YouTube video. The Ka-Chow Code Talkers is very interesting, and a lot of great information on there. You can find it on YouTube for free. But yeah, we had Cody up, and Cody talked about the film that he was doing. He's a successful, award-winning producer and director. He tries to keep his films to deal with his Navajo background. And then we were talking about the poster. There's the brothers right there. One nation, many nations, one fight. The summary of it, the importance is the significance of military history. It emerged as a critical component of the military communication strategy, showcasing the utility of languages as a weapon in warfare. Their legacy of resilience, the experiences reflect resilience, adaptability, and preservation of cultural identity amidst the challenges faced during and after the war, and the lessons for future generations. The story of the Tlingit Code Talker serves as an important lesson on the intersection of cultures, identity, and contributions, encouraging future generations to honor and preserve their heritage. It is so important that this story is told past our generation, the next generation, and that we cannot let it falter. We are dedicated at the Legion to make sure it's not falter. We're dedicating that front there, and We have kudos to, I don't know if you know, Miss Duncan from Kikuchihi. She's a library there. She actually designed a lesson plan on the Code Talkers. And we sent it up to the headquarters and all. I thought that was very impressive that she did that. The more this is coming out, the more people are taking notice of it, the more they're passing on. We had a couple authors come out last year, thanks to Rachel Roy. Got all the information I got, because I got a box like this full of stuff. And the letters back and forth from the military, which was our biggest challenge, because the Army kept trying to... Army doesn't want to give out stuff. It was Air Force who would have got the award right off the bat. But the Army kept pushing back and pushing back and pushing back, and I kept pushing forward and find declassified documents and stuff like that to prove that Lewis was a code talker. It was great pleasure when we did this on the Alaska Day, and I actually had Harvey was there with his father's Congressional Medal. Peter was there. Flo, that you all know from the Salvation Army, her father was George Lewis. She was there, and they all spoke about each of those individuals at heart. You can go to Sitka Historical Society's Facebook page and see the entire presentation that I gave, which is a little better than this one. I'm trying to keep this one under. But just their words of who their father was or who their uncle was and how they communicated was mind-blowing. And Harvey actually brought out the killer whale that they used for the coin, had it up on the stage. The stories that they shared, you know, Flo said she never knew her father was a code talker until like near the very end. So these gentlemen kept their secrets like they were supposed to. They took it very seriously. And when we do Louis Menard, I'm going to be in contact with Hillary and Camilla at the tribe, so I want to do it right. My idea is to have it at the Shikakwan. That's what I'm going to try to see if it doesn't cross boundaries and all. But I think that's built on the boarding school site where Lewis went to school. I think it's going to come full circle for him to be recognized for a language that they were trying to say, no, you can't speak. So that to me is important. I just want to make sure it's important to them as well, which I feel it would be, because we're going to say, hey, look, you tried to stop me. I helped save the country. So that is all I have. As I said, you can go to the Sitka Historical Society Museum's Facebook page. They have it posted. Go to the American Legion page. They have it posted as well. For Henry Jean Burton here, we have it up there if you want to watch it and see those interviews. Hear Rachel talk about her grandfather. Her mom talked about her, who was actually the daughter of Louis Menard. We actually went down to the cemetery. Louis Menard will be the first Tlingit code talker to have code talker on his stone. We put him in the wall. I took one of the challenge coins that we have that honor the code talkers, put that inside the wall as well. That was one of my big honors ever to do. And then we are working on getting Harvey and Mark Jacobs, who are also resting here at the National Cemetery, stones removed and code talker honors put on those 3 stones. George Lewis is in Huna, not a national cemetery, so we're trying to get a spike we can put next to a saying code talker, and the other 2 are not there as well. So if they're at the cemetery here, we have paperwork we can fill out and get those honors recognized. Family plots will do what we can. That's all I have. Any questions?
How long was the code talker program classified?
It declassified, what was that, 2000? No, during President Reagan's time period. Back a little more.
Relatively recent.
It's relatively recent. Yeah, so the declassification was in 1968, and that was only the Navajo. Then in 1982, President Reagan recognized the Navajo code talkers and other tribes, other Native Americans that helped. So there was the clue, there was more than just the Navajo. And then in 2001, they officially recognized the code talkers from the Navajo with the gold congressional coin. Still, the rest of the code talkers had to keep secret. This is why their stories got lost. And then finally in 2008, the rest of the tribes they knew were recognized, that they had records too. And so the coin design started in 2008, and then in 2013, 2012 area, big board representation of all the other tribes, and started issuing the rest of the Congressional Medal coins. As I said, only the tribe got the gold, and all the actual code talkers that were alive or their family members accepted the silver Congressional Medal, which is very rare. They only use the silver medals for, I think, 5 different classifications, and code talker is one of them. You can always purchase a bronze one. We have a bronze one at the Legion. It's a collector's item. And then the Navajo, once again, being the only one recognized in 2017 at a White House event. They are the most popular of the code talkers. They were a type 1 code talker, went by code. They were the groundbreakers. They're the ones that came out first and all. But as I say, can you imagine being somebody who had that secret and had to keep it while everybody was being recognized, while you were part of that? And then finally, A and B here in 2021 when the brothers were recognized.
Vince, I retired as a wing historian at Elmendorf Air Force Base in 2008. And I can tell you that there was mention about the Navajo code talkers. There was absolutely nothing ever implied. And I had access to published histories and to military stuff. Nothing was said about Tlingit code talkers. This seems to be original historical research. Are you guilty of original research?
Yes.
Are we seeing the benefits here?
Yeah, me being prior military, I felt a brother in arms was wrong, especially being something like that. I mean, there's stuff that I can't talk about from my service as well, but nothing that is impactful as what these gentlemen did. And me being the commander of the American Legion, it was my duty, not only as the commander, but as a fellow Army veteran, to ensure this, it went down the road. I mean, thanks to my family and wife giving me time for doing what I did, they supported it all the way. And I mean, fighting with the Army at Fort Knox was never a fun thing. They always put me in a foul mood, but thank God I played darts on Wednesday night. So Joe and Carol Ann, I'll go there, complain to them, and they say, hey, you need to keep doing it. This is for a good cause. This is why you're doing this. And they were serving as my constant reminder that I needed to keep going forward. And my family allotted me the time, hey, I got to do this, got to do that, I got to go talk to this person, that person. And they didn't even question it. I mean, I could have not done that part of the historical, trying to find stuff, time on the computer, going through boxes, talking to Scotty. Scotty is a wealth of information down there. Something that's not in here, which I do want to add to this, is World War II. Sitka actually has the first, but it's not a prize because it's not a game, but we have the first significant World War II prize in America. Pearl Harbor happened. When Pearl Harbor happens, we had a Korean vessel out here in the waters. The Korean vessel was being piloted by Japanese officers. The Koreans were manning the ship. And when the message came over the radio, the Koreans took the ship back from the Japanese, locked them up, and shot off flares because they didn't know how to operate the boat. First to the boat was Mark Jacobs. And that is in the book written by it's a Russian gentleman. I can't remember his name now. But I didn't know that until Scotty told me that. Scotty, if you're looking for information on anything, Scotty is a wealth of information. But yeah, it's a big book we have at the library, and actually the entire book is almost about the Jacobs family. It starts off with Mark and Harvey's fathers and stuff like that, and it goes on. There's a whole section about Mark, very, very detailed of their life during that time period.
I also am a professional historian. I work for the State of Florida Historic Preservation Office for 10 years and was a board member for nonprofit working on projects like this. And I commend you for doing a really great job of transatlantic historian work at a really grassroots level. So, not to what you're saying, it's really exciting to hear about what you're doing. And it's called Silence History and Hidden History, and you're bringing that to light, and that's really, really important. I'm not sure if America 250 is on your radar as a member of American Legion and the work he's doing personally, but the Raptor Center will be if you don't have a relationship with the Alaska State Historic Preservation Office, I'm happy to make that introduction.
Awesome.
They tried to hire me before they heard I was coming here. But this is absolutely amazing, and I'd love to have a one-on-one with you. And just,
Outstanding.
yeah, and kind of start.
Are you the new director at the?
I am.
Okay, I'm Vince from the Lakeside. I've been trying to catch you.
Yeah, Raleigh talks about it all the time. Thank you. Yeah, definitely want to meet you.
Okay, cool.
Carol, do you agree that this stuff needs to be published? We need to have a book, at least one book about
Yes.
this.
I am working with Tim Treadle, who is an author. He came out in the summertime. Rachel brought him out, and he is researching this for that possibility of creating a book. He is a historical writer. He's Native American from somewhere in the middle. I don't know off the top of my head, but I know Rachel is heading that up. You'll see this year in the Sitka guide that code torpors will be highlighted. So we're scrambling to get the front the way we want it done. Right now, all the information is there, but it's not really eye appealing. We want to put the glass cases down and then put new boards up, wallpaper the wall with the bows, kind of make it look like the museum does, with some cedar up around it and all. We have several people that had committed and then they backed out. We've got Waypoint for Veterans, Lucas Goddard, they donated $6,000 for that. The chamber has donated money and all. So we're getting there. We just need to find the people who are willing to do it. I mean, I don't have carpentry skills. I mean, I can put a nail on, but I can't build things to put glass in and stuff like that. Because we want to preserve the artifacts that we do have.
And then those are going to get the Legion Hall?
Yep, they're there now. They're sealed in a Caraco case.
Yeah, I would give technical assistance on exhibits, but also if it will like and just capture these stories of the storytelling, like you were just talking about, like preservation of the story, so it's not forgotten like the Stone. So like, I would love to see that too.
Well, this will be going to the headquarters of the American Legion once Senator Murkowski comes and does the Silver Award. Once that's done, I will update all this, and then it will go to the historical archives at the American Legion, and from there they're going to push it out to other ones. I already had a young lady from Utah. I don't know, showed up on Sitka Chatters one day. Also, my phone's blowing up. This person wants information. I found out she's in Utah, but she's supposedly from Sitka. So I'm sending her all the information. She does homeschool, and she wants to know about it because she never heard of any code talker besides Navajo.
Yeah, and then I'm really plugged in with Children in the American Revolution and Daughters of the American Revolution and Sons of the American Revolution. So I just think there's a lot that could be happening in
Here's a little piece for you. There's the Daughter of the Revolution buried in Antioch, Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't really have a strong presence here, but
Yeah, we
that's
went
really
to a
good to
funeral
know.
site one day. And I said, I recognize that. That's the Daughter of the Revolution, way up here.
Yeah.
So, turned out she was one of the managers at Rada Storage back in the 1920s, 30s.
Yeah. And I worked for the Old Guards Museum, which was right by Last.
Okay.
And so I think that maybe kind of going to working with the Army historians, maybe going that way, maybe you can uncover information and kind of get.
Yeah, I've been working with General. His name. He came out for the General Hilbert. He's from the 11th Airborne, and his sidekick Captain Wally. They've got the information because what happens? They just went to the Philippines to do recognize World War II, and these two individual code talkers that were there were also recognized because they were part of the 143rd Infantry that they didn't know who of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good job. So impressive.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the Code Talker program end with World War II, or was it used during Korean War or Vietnam? Or?
We do not know. It was officially declassified in '68. I guess it might have been, but there's no proof, no evidence. I tried looking it up and I can't find anything. A lot of records are still sealed from then and very difficult to get. I mean, just getting the information for this was extremely difficult. But thanks to the people around here, they keep their history.
This is, you're onto something here. In the ATG, they may not have been officially code talkers, but one of the reasons the ATG in Western Alaska was so prized by the military is that they were speaking the Yupik and Inupiat. And They didn't need to be code talkers, because they all were code talkers.
Right.
And that tradition carried over within the Alaska National Guard in our scout program. And I won't bore people with that bit of history trivia, but one of the reasons the Alaska National Guard's assignment in that interwar period, in that 50s and 60s period, was to be, they were deployed on the ground because we had so many native language speakers on the air, on our frontier with Russia. There were people in Diomede Island who were listening on military radios to the Russians talking in Siberian Yupik, which they also spoke. And they were translating in real time Russian messaging. This was happening in the 50s and 60s. It wasn't documented. It was just part of the course of business. But this is a significant chapter.
Yeah, and I believe that they should be recognized as code talkers as well, because they utilized their language to help us achieve what we were trying to achieve. So that's a fight that needs to be picked up.
Dave had a question.
Dave.
It got asked.
Oh, yeah,
I was wondering about continuation, because I've run into people over the years that were interested in this topic and sort of unofficially claimed to have been part of it in the post-World War II era. I knew a Navajo guy in our unit up in Fairbanks that spoke with a lot of code talkers, and it was interesting. He pointed out to me that Navajo can talk to Athabascan quite adequately.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, there's some
he was
similarities
making
between
links.
it. That's like when Chuck was alive. I just had a conversation with Chuck because I had come from Antioch and I was immersed in the Yupik culture. I said, Chuck, I'm listening to your stories. This is during the COVID time, and he put the stories out. My kids loved watching them. He talked about Raven. He said it in Yupik first. Tlingit first, and then translated it in English. And once he translated it, it clicked. It's the same story, just different deities.
Yeah.
And that's thousands of miles difference between the two. And he's like, yeah, it's because we were all one family. We just, during the years, became either traded with somebody or saw somebody, and after all the years of travel, but the stories were exactly the same.
And the Russians made use of native populations for the same purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that one.
Last question.
Well, my question is, in the case that the Legion is putting together for the display, is there a little tiny yellow rubber rotary duck in the corner?
He'll be camouflaged.
Oh, okay, all right.
We can get it with Army camouflage.
We can QR code that.
Well, thank you, Vince, for sharing about the Code Talkers and your passion. And with that, let's give him a round of applause.
Great. Mr. President, next week we'll have representatives from the Decline and Sign Coalition speaking to us. A few weeks later, we'll have representatives from Small Council speaking to us.
Great.
So something to watch on your calendar.
So nobody miss next week. It's going to be interesting to hear about the Decline to Sign initiative.
So we have 6 days to find a program, right?
All right. So with that, you're all free to go.
These lines right now, they're trying to put that one. That's what